if you can tell us a bit about the emergence of your feminist identity. How did that come about for you?
Yeah, I've thought about that, not because you asked me, but one does get that question. And I'm not sure that I ever had any other identity. But I do have a very, very specific issue around which my activism emerged. I don't know if that was visible in my CV, but I was one of the people who started the Swedish, association to improve breastfeeding. It doesn't sound very feminist, but it was for us. I mean, I know here you have the La Leche League, which is anything but feminist. But in Sweden it was actually a bunch of academic mothers who got together and decided we want to take, our breasts back from the doctors. And that was in 1973. No, actually that was really very sort of practical starting point for me. So for us it was very much a political issue and something to do with not being sort of bound up in the medical establishment. It was all about that, not about this body stuff, the sort of, more vague. No. And organizing, of course. It's a big thing. And getting seen and being in the newspapers and, that kind of stuff. Yeah. So your question, it's easy to answer. I've always been a feminist, but it sort of started seriously, practically, in 1973.
Yeah. And so, having always been a feminist, what are some examples from maybe your early life of how did you live out that identity as a young person?
The word feminist didn't exist in Sweden in those days, so I couldn't have had that kind of identity. That was impossible. But I remember I have sort of silly memories sitting in a bus when I was about 11 and hearing some people behind me saying, there are some girls who don't really play with dolls a lot. I'm so worried about what's going to happen with them. And there I was, not playing with dolls. And also at school, I was one of those girls who did the odd thing, studying lots of mathematics, lots of physics, lots of biology and all that kind of stuff, because I just did, wanted to. And we were 4 girls and 25 boys or something. And that, it wasn't exactly a feminist identity, but the sense of transgressing boundaries was always very, very, very near. So it's that kind of thing. And of course, the whole thing about heterosexual. I'm a heterosexual woman, as far as I know. I've been married once, I had 2 children, and divorced. And that was also but that was after this breastfeeding thing. But that was a very, very important thing for me, realizing that this relation is not really for my sake. And getting out. It was very low-key, nothing very dramatic, but still really sort of. So I think my sort of activity, my awareness, consciousness, in those days was very untheoretical. It was very much to do with experiences, noticing transgressions, being transgressed on, and so on. I was a graduate school in psychology then in Uppsala at the university there, doing psychophysiology and psychosomatics and so on. Nothing to do with gender. But after the divorce, basically, a friend of mine who went through her coming out process at that time. I came out of my marriage and she came, started actually doing feminist psychology at the University of Uppsala. We started, little courses and our dissertations just fell apart. So we started other dissertations, really. And and doing a feminist dissertation by sort of middle end of the 1970s at Uppsala University. It was less possible than today, but it isn't very possible today either, I have to tell you.